Welcome to the Working Moms Podcast, featuring inspiring stories and resources for the modern working mom. I'm your host, estate planning attorney, investor, and pregnant mama-to-be, Pam Moss. All right, so today's guest is Andrea Vahl. She is a social media consultant, a strategist, a speaker, and co-author of Facebook Marketing All-in-One for Dummies. Andrea, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here.
So I'd love to kind of start off by hearing about your background and how you got into social media.
Yeah, so I mean, if we start way back, I kind of got into this a long time ago, but I was actually in my previous life, I was an engineer. So I was an engineer and I got laid off from my job. And when I was laid off, I had a 1-year-old son at home, and I realized I did not want to go back to work. It just wasn't. I just wanted to try and make it work as long as possible. So I stayed at home, and that presents its own challenges, right? So there's challenges to being a working mom. There's challenges to being a stay-at-home mom. There's challenges to be an entrepreneur who is working and staying and home with the kids. There's so many challenges. Basically, all of motherhood is really a challenge. So
that makes me feel real good.
Yeah. So good luck with that. So I did notice that I really wanted to do something else because I just had to, and so I started doing some part-time things. So I'd always been kind of an entrepreneur at heart. And so I dabbled in tried a few things, and I started an in-home wine tasting business, which was great with the toddler at home. I got to drink on the job, and that was really perfect. And now I'm a blogger, so it's the same. So I learned social media in doing that promotional activity to promote my in-home wine tasting business. And as I was learning that, I was realizing there weren't a lot of funny, interesting tutorials on social media. And so I started doing that, but I also did improv comedy at the time as well, which was again, another way to get out of the house and be really crazy and ridiculous to let off you've got to have some hobbies. I'm telling you right now. And I recommend drinking and comedy. So, I started my blog as Grandma Mary's social media edutainer and just kind of made some funny tutorials. And that's kind of what started the whole social media piece is I wanted to help people especially people who needed really step-by-step instructions, because I didn't find any at that time out there, and wanted to really help people grow their business. And so as that piece grew, that's when it led to the book deal. I grew my platform to a point where I got invited to co-author the book along with Amy Porterfield and Phyllis Kerr. And that was just kind of a whole thing that I didn't even realize would happen from this. I just kind of followed a passion and followed something that I felt would be a great little fun side business. And now it's grown into a full-time business where I get to travel all over the world and speak and do all this stuff. So the thing I loved about it was that I could grow that business with my children as well. So I started off doing a kind of side gig, working while they were napping, and my second son hardly napped, so it was really made it challenging. But I was working at all weird times and growing it, doing it part-time. And now that they're in high school, I am able to do it full-time, and they have been able to travel around with me. And we've gone to, when I've spoken in Barbados and London and all kinds of places that have been really fun to have them come along as well.
So I love all that. And you mentioned kind of your brand, or what you kind of brought in the beginning was this comedy element.
Yeah.
Can you tell a little bit more about that? Like what gave you that idea, and how has that kind of grown over the last several years?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of always something I've loved is entertaining, and I just knew that I wanted to bring that into my business more and bring more of my that unique side of me into my business. And that I think should be something that everyone is doing, really showing up as you, uniquely you, whatever kinds of things are that you feel passionate about. I think you also can build your brand with. And also, kind of an interesting thing is that I ended up attracting a lot of people who, in connecting with a lot of people who also love comedy and love art and love expression and things like that. And I did have people who were like, well, you're kind of weird. We're not going to work with you. I'm like, cool. You are not my people. Okay. So don't be afraid to really put your stake in the ground and say who you are.
When you got that call for, the book deal that you were mentioning and that you weren't expecting, how did that feel? And did you kind of, after going through that experience, would you have any advice for people who really want to position themselves for that type of deal or that type of opportunity?
Yeah, it was super surreal. I still remember getting that phone call, and I was like, wait, what? Really? Are you serious? And so it was really awesome. And what I really attribute that to is growing your own platform. That is so important with everything. And that is actually also why I've been able to sell out comedy shows, is that I have grown my own platform and I've grown my own email list for that. So when I produce a comedy show, I'm able to email my audience and sell out the show pretty easily. So with anything, it's so important not to allow Facebook to own the followers. It's important to bring those people off of whatever platform you might be might be working on, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and bring them into something that you own more, because then that platform can go away or change their algorithm, and I can still communicate and reach my audience. So that's really what it came down to, is I was growing my audience. I was blogging a lot right in the beginning, and I was creating content that I wanted to see out there, that I felt strongly about, and realized that no one else had quite my view or take on it. And I could, grow that audience just with that great content. So, use content and make sure you're actually building your own audience instead of just growing likes.
That's such great advice. And one of the things that you mentioned a moment ago was really just being authentically you and sharing yourself. And I can imagine for some of the people listening, especially being a parent, there's some fear around what your children are going to see of you on social media and balancing that. And so I'm really curious about how that's worked with your sons and with you, what advice you have for people with that.
Yeah, I'm sure I've scarred my children, and I mean, right? They're probably like, wait, your mom doesn't dress up in an old lady wig and blog? What? You always think your childhood is the norm, right? You always think, oh, well, that's just how people do it, so, don't worry about that. And I think also it's important to, as a parent and as a mother, to show your kids to show them how you can strive for something, and it's not all about them, right? You have to have your own life and your own passions that you pursue with fervor, so that they can then realize what is it like to live a life that is fully expressed, and also that is that is something that is meaningful.
That's great. And over the years with your sons, have you given them input on how they should have their social media?
Yeah, no. Just other than sometimes seeing, definitely be aware of what your kids are doing if you can. It's so hard. There's all kinds of weird ways to hide stuff and things like that. So, I just try and follow my kids where I can find them. And we did limit their, I do think that social media has its big downsides. And we did limit our kids' access to a phone until pretty late, till the point where they were like, "Ooh, everyone has one," and I think that it is hard, and it's a balance. Everyone has to kind of find out where that balance is. But I think that we've tried to limit some of that because it is a dangerous place and it's hard to navigate, and just always try and have open conversations about that, and what's happening for people if they're commenting or whatever, and all the FOMO that happens out there is challenging too. So it's a wild world out there. It's, we didn't, back when I was growing up, we didn't have all this, so it's challenging as parents to really know how it's going to all play out.
How has your business changed over the last couple of years, as it's grown? And
yeah, definitely. One of the things that I've really come to understand is that when I started, I was kind of doing everything. I was like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. And I've really niched down, and not only just to Facebook before I did all, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, all this stuff. But I've really niched down not only just to Facebook, but really more just Facebook ads. And then oftentimes I'm really serving just a slightly more focused community on people who are launching courses with Facebook ads, because that's just kind of something I've specialized into. And I would say, don't be afraid to niche and to focus your business, because the more you can focus, the more repeatable it can be, the more you will become well known for that particular skill. And the better you get at that skill, the faster you get at the skill, and the more you can charge for that skill. And it has to be a combination of something you're interested in, something you're really good at, and just something that you enjoy growing. So I think that's part of it as well.
And you're kind of mentioning the niche that you're in right now and focusing on Facebook ads specifically for course creators, and how folks in that area who might be listening, what exactly do you help them with? What are your offers right now in that area?
Yeah, so I have a course on Facebook ads, so people can learn how to run Facebook ads for themselves. I also do run campaigns and help people manage their whole campaign around Facebook ads. But then I also do consulting. So those are some of the areas that I help in. And, it's been kind of interesting because I've had these different offerings. And one of the other things I do is speaking. And it's been kind of nice to be able to have these different silos of my business, because as we know, with the whole coronavirus, and whatever time you're listening to this podcast, that may be all done, hopefully. But it's been nice as that has totally stopped, then I can really scale up the other parts of my business. So I think that's a good thing to think about too, is where you can scale and add services or scale back services as you change kind of what you like.
Yeah, kind of. I love that. And I love that you've really taken the time to, it sounds like, diversify, and that have that advice that you can kind of respond to what's happening. And along that line with, because we are in the middle of COVID, when folks may be listening to this, do you have any advice for people who maybe are struggling or trying to start something new right now, as far as what you've seen, what's working right now, where they should focus their energy?
Yeah, I think for sure, work on your online presence. I've had clients of mine who were a local boutique who've now had to go completely online, and we're making it work because, and she was working on a website. She's like, oh, let's accelerate that a little bit. So, but we've actually been able to make it work with Facebook ads and just driving traffic to her online boutique now. So I think focus on online is a big thing, and don't be afraid to start something new in the middle of some type of crisis. My business started because I was laid off due to the 2008 big bubble that happened there. So, I was in technology or in the telecommunication space, totally burst, and you have to reinvent yourself. And there's opportunities. There's still things happening. There's still different ways that people are discovering they need to pivot, and they need services, they need products, they need different offerings for that. So I think that these kinds of downturns can be a great time to start a business, and you can start something with just barely nothing. I started on a shoestring budget way back then, and you can definitely do that now as well. So don't be afraid to start something new.
For those folks watching on the video, I see a cute puppy, a doggy in the background. Who's the cute doggy in the background?
Yeah, that's my little friend.
So that's such a great advice. And I think for some people, it is a hard time right now. And, there is a few different ways to react to it. And change is always something that, takes people time to adjust to. But it sounds like you're kind of living proof that you can really make lemonade out of lemons, that you can really create an opportunity from it.
For sure.
So how, from kind of a work-life balance standpoint, you are kind of like the do-it-all, right? You business owner, mom, a comedian, author.
Yeah, sometimes I make myself a little crazy, but but definitely I think it kind of forces you. And this is what happened when my kids were really young. It really forces you to say, what is the smallest thing I can do that will have the biggest impact? What can I do to maximize every minute? Because literally every minute can count sometimes. And so I focused most of my time on creating content, and then kind of thinking about how can I be profitable, because I knew I needed to be profitable pretty quickly. I had a super small budget because I wasn't working. We were a single income household. And so I was like, let's figure out what is going to get the biggest bang for my buck. And the thing I love about online businesses or starting businesses is that a lot of times you can be profitable quickly. I was pretty much profitable right from the start. And that was kind of due to knowing that I could charge for my consulting, to kind of coming up with a course. I launched a course before I was really ready. I was like, I look back now on the course I created, it was really kind of crazy. I was recording it at night, like it was all like dark. I would have this dark screen basically with me, kind of silhouette background, where it was just, but it kind of, and it wasn't perfect. That's the other thing too, is you do not have to be perfect. Do not compare yourself to these people who have teams of people who are, working for them. They've been doing this for 10 years or whatever or more. Don't compare yourself to that. And also don't worry that the market is saturated in whatever niche you're in, because it needs your voice, and you can have a slightly different take. There are people who don't want to work with that particular person for whatever reason. They might relate to you more. So definitely focus on the highest impact activities, and don't worry about doing it messy, doing it imperfectly, because people will relate to that too.
That's such great advice. And something you kind of said a few moments ago was when it comes to kind of the family, like it's important for you to have your own identity and pursue your own goals. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I think one of my fears, for those who may not know, I'm 6 months pregnant, and I want you want to do everything right, and you want to do it right, and you want to and there's a lot of fear that comes up, and wanting to keep your own identity in it. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you've done that, how you've kind of balanced the idea of being a mom and then also having your separate identity.
Yeah, for sure. I think that hobbies can help, and it can definitely help you get away, because if you pour everything you have and don't leave anything left for yourself, it really is a detriment to the whole family, I think. So you've got to, put your own seatbelt on first, all that kind of stuff that they say, your own oxygen mask needs to go on first. And it really is, it's just about carving out that time and really honoring and defending that time, and making sure that somehow that time is carved out. And it could be like, one of the ways we did it when our kids were really young is we just had a group of moms, and it was literally like a tag team, zone defense there, or whatever that is. It was like, I mean, that's kind of something that saved my sanity. And we would have kind of a co-op, we had a little co-op, what's that, like, well, it was a play group, but it was also like kind of a preschool type co-op. Each had little lessons, and then the other couple moms would get like an hour and a half off, and it literally, like, an hour and a half, it felt like forever. It was beautiful. So it was, just having a way to carve out some time for yourself and defend that time. And I think hobbies help you not lose yourself, and just a goal and an interest. And for me, it was about building that side business that I knew was going to get built way slower than a lot of things I was seeing out there. And it was because I knew that I just wanted to hang out with my kids as much as possible. And it was going to take me longer to build it. But now, 10 years later, I look back and I'm like, wow, look at how far I came in that time, just chipping away, just building this a little bit at a time, and working during naps and, whatever, evenings when they went to bed or whatever.
Where did you find this magic co-op of women too?
Yeah, it was just kind of our neighborhood group, actually. Yeah. So that was it worked out really great. So, I know it can be hard to find, but definitely, mom, it's great when you can find a group of moms to band together and just keep your sanity.
So one of the things that you mentioned was improv, and how that has kind of been part of your life. For those people who aren't familiar with improv and what it is, and what can you tell people about improv? And
yeah, so I did improv for, I think it was like almost 8 years in Denver, and it started before kids, and then definitely I had a lighter show schedule after kids, but I did continue it. And the improv is fun because you've got a group of people all working on a scene, and you never know what's going to happen. And the games that we play are inherently funny. So if people have seen Whose Line Is It Anyway, that's been off the air for a while now, but sometimes people are familiar with that. That's kind of what it is. And then stand-up, now I do just stand-up, and I've been doing that for 4 or 5 years, 5 years, maybe, I don't know. And that is, obviously then you're by yourself and it's all scripted. So they're so different in terms of what kinds of things come up, what kinds of comedy muscles you use. And so it's been really fun to do both.
Have you felt like, I know when you started your business, you had this comedic element, and then now you have stand-up comedy and you have your business. Have you entwined them in different ways?
Yeah, that was actually kind of one of the reasons I took a stand-up class. I thought as an improv comedy person, I was like, oh, I'm never going to do stand-up. That sounds hard. And for my speaking, I thought, you know what, I want to be able to write some jokes. So I'm going to take a stand-up class. Well, I didn't think of it. I ended up writing all about my personal failings as a mother. So I couldn't really fit that into my speeches really well. And my midlife crisis, I stuck that in there too. So that kind of turned into me just really enjoying performing there. So that was a whole different tack that took, but it actually has been fun because I've been trying to incorporate more humor into my speaking as well. So it's been a fun thing to try and incorporate.
That's great. Well, thank you for being with me today, taking your time. And before we sign off, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you, to find your content?
Yeah, people can find me at AndreaVahl.com, AndreaVahl.com. And there I also have links to my social sites, but you can also find me on Facebook at Andrea Vahl Inc. My blog is on my site. I also have some stand-up clips on my site too. And just come connect and learn about Facebook ads there and comedy.
Do you have any shows coming up?
No, we did a virtual show. That was interesting. I'm probably going to do another one coming up. I think it's going to be kind of a hybrid virtual live coming up here in July.
So if people sign up for your mailing list, they can find out about
exactly. That's if you go to my stand-up comedy page on my website, you can sign up to get on the list for that.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thanks so much, Pamela.
Hey Mama, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Head over to my website, www.findpam.com, for all the show notes and links. And you will also get access to my free legal tool to name legal guardians. It's all right there at findpam.com.